Alright, so before we get into this video, I just want to say something. I'm not a fan of any specific team. I'm actually a three-way fan, and those being the Raptors, since I was born in Canada and I sort of have to like the Raptors, and the Jazz because I've always found them to be a respectable team, and this guy named Donovan Mitchell comes in and that really changes my opinion on them a lot. And finally, the team that started everything for me, the Lakers. More importantly, the man who started my love for basketball, Kobe Bryant. If it were not for this specific individual, I would not have loved basketball as I have today. I mean, I grew up watching him, and as soon as I started watching him, literally, I just don't have any words to express. This guy was incredible, and it's honestly a tragedy what happened to him. He impacted the game so well, and I just don't have any words to say what happened. One of my favorite players in the league would not be in the league right now if it weren't for how he influenced him, and that player is DeMar DeRozan. And he's also the reason that I started liking the Raptors, and as a lot of you know, he took his game a lot after Kobe Bryant, and he even said in an interview that if it weren't for him, he wouldn't even be in the league right now. I probably would not have made a YouTube channel if it wasn't for Kobe Bryant and how he influenced the game of basketball. So I just want to say thank you, Kobe, for everything you've done for the world and how you've influenced the game of basketball. Alright, so now let's get into the video, and we're ranking the top 10 best small forwards in the NBA right now. Once again, this has nothing to do with how the team is doing, it's just about how the player is doing by themselves statistically. Alright, so let's get into the honorable mentions, and the first one is Will Barton. And Barton, he stepped up from last year, from averaging 11 points and almost going unheard of. He's averaged almost nearly 15 this season, and I think as the years go on, he will become a pretty solid scorer, but I don't see him being much more than that. The next honorable mention is Harrison Barnes. And I honestly expected him to be at least the number 10 spot, but he's actually gone down in his scoring average over the past few years. I mean, when he was on the Warriors, he was an okay player and people thought he was going to break out. And he pretty much did when he got traded to Dallas. He averaged nearly 20 points, but ever since then, he's gone to like a 15 to 16 point player, and become the player that everyone thought he was going to be when he was on the Warriors. Another honorable mention is TJ Warren. And even though he's not the most popular player, I'm surprised he isn't, because for like 3 years now, he's been averaging nearly 20 points. And that's really solid in my opinion, and he's for some reason not talked about a lot. Let's all hope that he keeps on improving, and he might even, who knows, make it to an all-star level in the future. And the last honorable mention is Carmelo Anthony. Okay, just a clarification, I don't hate Melo. I think he's a good player and he hasn't been treated very fairly by a lot of teams. I just find it really easy to make fun of him. And I'm actually happy for him that the Blazers signed him. And even though they were really desperate, and let's be honest, they probably are going to miss the playoffs. Okay, maybe not, but Carmelo doesn't really seem to be helping them a lot, even since, his only skill is scoring. He's not that good of a defender. But still, he's a solid player and definitely a Hall of Famer in the future. Alright, so let's get into the top 10, and the first one is Kelly Oubre Jr., or as Chris Mo would say, Kelly Oubre. And he's taken a big step from his Washington days where he averaged like 10 to 12 points there, and then as soon as he came to Phoenix, he averaged like 16 points in his first season there. Then he went to 19, which is pretty big development in my opinion. Oubre's a pretty good rebounder for his size. He's a pretty good defender too. He's averaging like 1.5 steals a game and almost 1 block per game, but he really needs to improve on his passing. Like, come on, 1 assist per game? Really? Overall, Kelly Oubre is a good player. Just like I said, improve on your passing and you'll definitely be in the topper rankings. That's good grammar. Alright, so next up at number 9 is Marcus Morris. And I honestly think he made a pretty big mistake not signing with the Spurs. Like, you would rather go to the Knicks for more money than, potentially making the Spurs a contender. Okay, but maybe not a contender, but like a much better team. Okay, but anyway, he's doing pretty good this year. He's averaging 19, and surprised he isn't getting more rebounds because he's a lot bigger than Kelly Oubre, and Kelly Oubre is averaging a whole rebound more than him per game, which is pretty surprising. What's even weirder is that he's not quite as good as a defender as Kelly Oubre, and I honestly think that shouldn't be the case since, again, Marcus Morris is a lot bigger than Kelly Oubre. But his impact on the court is definitely felt more than Kelly Oubre since, he's a slightly better scorer than him, and, even in passing, he's a bit better since he's actually averaging more. Not much more, but he's still averaging more. Okay, my reasoning for these two aren't that good, but come on, it's only the number 10 and number 9, and it's gonna get better as we keep moving on. Number 8 goes to Chris Middleton. I'm just gonna say it right now, Bucks, you guys are hella stupid for giving this man a max contract. How are you gonna give a 18 points per game man a 170 million max contract? Okay, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Chris Middleton, and I don't think he should have been an all-star last season, he's still putting up pretty good numbers. He's putting up 19 points per game, and he's having a really good season from 3. He's averaging 42% from 3, and he's always been good at 3-point shooting, and I do think he does have a pretty good chance at making the 3-point contest. I mean, he makes it pretty much all the time, but that's besides the point. And anyway, he's actually not that bad of a defender. He's better than Marcus Morris, but because he can get you about a steal per game. One thing he does need to improve on is his passing, and his assist numbers, they have gone down in the past few years from going from 5 assists to under 4 assists per game. Middleton's not my favorite player, but I can't deny that he's having a pretty good season overall. Number 7 goes to Tobias Harris, and I honestly think he's one of the most underrated players in the league. I mean, his impact on Philly was really apparent as soon as he joined them. Like, they weren't really that much of a contender until him and Butler joined it. Even though we do know Jimmy Butler is a better player, Tobias Harris still had a big impact on the team, and he helped the Sixers go to the semifinals and took the Raptors to Game 7. And this is when Kawhi Leonard was on the team too, and that's not easy when the best defender and a really good scorer is on that team. What kind of hurts Harris though is that even literally the Sixers had a big 4, but they still couldn't beat the Raps when all they had was Siakam and Kawhi Leonard, and Lowry, he didn't really show up in that series. But still, he's a great rebounder, is an okay passer, needs to improve on that a bit, and is a pretty good defender, and overall a really good player. Number 6 goes to Jimmy Butler, and him joining the Heat obviously made them a much better team since they're the 3rd best seed in the Eastern Conference, and the teams above them are no pushovers, those being the Raptors and the Bucks, and the Bucks, they have the best record in the league with only 6 losses. And Butler, he's come out and scored 26 and 7, and this can lead him to get a triple-double here and there, and him leading the Heat to this many wins actually makes them a pretty big contender for making the finals. I know I talk about scoring a lot, but being the star player, you need a lot of scoring, and 20 points, which is good, but the people I mentioned earlier, they're not the star player of their team, while Jimmy Butler, he is the star player of their team, and I honestly expect him to come out and score at least 23 or 24. But his passing and rebounding make him a better player than the people before him, since they're not, the people before him aren't much of a passer. Number 5 goes to the biggest shocker of the season in my opinion, and that's Bojan Bogdanovic. And being a Jazz fan, I'm really happy that the Jazz picked up this guy because he's come out and scored 21 a game. And, even though he's not much of a passer or a rebounder, his impact is definitely felt on the court because, there's stuff that doesn't really show up on the stat sheets. He's actually a pretty good defender, and I've seen a lot of Jazz games, and he can actually draw quite a lot of charges. His passing does need to improve a lot though, because remember, he had that 133-point game with 0 rebounds and 0 assists. And even though he is a pretty good rebounder, that stat also needs to go up a bit. But the fact that makes him better than Jimmy Butler is purely his scoring, since he's led the Jazz, him and Donovan Mitchell, to the second best seed in the Western Conference, and that's not easy, is it? And no one expected the Jazz to be this good. Everyone expected them to be like a 5th or 6th seed, but clearly that's not the case. Let's hope he keeps on improving and is an all-star. He might be an all-star this season, who knows, but I doubt that. But I 100% guarantee you, if he keeps this up, he'll be an all-star next season. Number 4 goes to Brandon Ingram, and as soon as this guy gets traded, he comes out and scores 25, 6, and 4. And he's a pretty good candidate for MIP, and I honestly think he is probably the most likely. Who knows, I feel like Devontae Graham has a better chance of winning it, but Brandon Ingram's definitely a really close second. And even though the Pelicans aren't really winning a lot of games, I feel like that's not really his fault, since Zion, he has been injured, and even though he's only been back for a couple of games, he is showing signs of being a really good player. And even though I doubt the Pelicans, they will make the playoffs. I mean, let's be honest, they're definitely not. The next year, they definitely will, in my opinion. And I honestly think this was a win-win trade for both the Pelicans and the Lakers, since, Lonzo, he is going to develop. I really, truly do think that. Josh Hart, I think, will turn into a solid player, and Brandon Ingram's already turned into an all-star. Number 3 goes to Luka Doncic. A lot of you might think he's a point guard, but I personally count him as a small forward, and I already made that list, and I'm not going to redo it. So here we are with Luka Doncic at number 3. And we all know that Luka Doncic, he is an MVP candidate, and I honestly think he is going to win it and become the youngest MVP ever. He's also nearly averaging a triple-double, and he's averaging 29, 8, and 9, which is absolutely insane. Those are like Russell Westbrook MVP numbers. But the difference is he doesn't take as many bad shots as Westbrook did. Well, I mean, Westbrook has changed now, but we still know Luka's better. And even if he doesn't win MVP this season, he's 100% a lock for next season. And personally, I think he's even a lock this season. But if somehow he does get snubbed this season, there's no way he's not winning it next season. Number 2 goes to Kawhi Leonard. And no, I'm not being biased just because Kawhi won us a championship. I actually think his impact on the court is a lot better than Luka. Okay, not a lot better, but he's leading the Clippers to more wins, and they're the 3rd best team in the Western Conference right now. And Kawhi used to be a ball hog, but his passing's actually improved quite a lot. I mean, just the other day, he had his first career triple-double, and this shows how much he's developed as a playmaker. He's come out and scored 27, 7, and 5, and his assist numbers have gone up a lot. Just like I said, he's just as good of a rebounder, and his scoring has improved as well. Not much really has to be said here, because we all know Kawhi, he's one of the best players in the league right now. So let's just get on to number 1. And number 1 is, this is a shocker, it's Alex Caruso. Just kidding. But I bet we all know it really should be him. Okay, seriously, it's LeBron James. This was a no-brainer. I mean, this man is a quote-unquote washed king, and he's averaging 25, 8, and 10, which doesn't look like washed numbers to me. And before you guys go at me and say the only reason the Lakers are first in the West is because of Anthony Davis, let me say this. Before LeBron got injured last season, the Lakers, they were 4th in the West. But then as soon as he went down with that groin injury, the Lakers, they all fell apart. And then when he came back, I admit they did have some embarrassing losses, but when he's on the court, you can definitely see they're winning a lot more. And if he never got injured at all and played pretty much all 82 games, we all know the Lakers would have made the playoffs, and that's a no-brainer. And I definitely think they would have been at least the 4th or 3rd seed in the Western Conference that season. I mean, come on, if the Clippers could make the playoffs that season with Patrick Beverley, I know Lou Will's on the team too, but still, I'm pretty sure the Lakers would also have made the playoffs and would have been in the higher rankings in the standings. Once again, not much has to be said here. We all know that he's the best player in the league right now, since, you know, how his essence is definitely felt on the court, and, you know, we all know that he's deserving of the number 1 spot. Okay, so that's pretty much gonna do it for this video. You know, as always, leave a like, subscribe, turn that bell icon on so you're notified when I post a video. Leave a comment on what I should do for the next video, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.